Bryce's best 10. Top 10 teams in the NFL. If we can get the background music going. Here we go. Top 10 teams in the NFL going into week 2. Here we go. So, at number 10. And this hurts my soul to put this team in this spot. And I have to put them in the top 10. But I can't deny what I watched on Sunday. And again, some of this, by the way, is not just what happened on Sunday. It's, were they on the fringes? This team, not necessarily, but I'll sneak them in the top 10. I'll sneak the Cleveland Browns into the top 10. Again, doing it through gritted teeth, hoping that next week they're not in the top 10 because my Steelers lay a hammering on them, hopefully. But you consider what they did to a Cincinnati Bengals offense that looked completely inept. Joe Burrow, 82 yards passing, a career low. Days, obviously, after getting that massive contract extension to make him the highest paid player in NFL history, holding the Cincinnati Bengals to a single field goal. Rushing game didn't do much. Again, Jamar Chase had 39 yards receiving. Everybody else, 17 yards for Joe Mixon, 17 for Irv Smith, 10 for Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins did not have a single catch or a single yard receiving, obviously. What they did to this Bengals offense was, I mean, you have Myles Garrett. You saw this play on social media, I'm sure. You see Myles Garrett lining up over center, doing a Kyrie Irving between the legs, crossing them up, and then coming in and giving Joe Burrow hell the whole entire game. So, props to Cleveland Browns. That defense is for real. That defense is legit. Really, the questions I have about the Browns is the questions I had coming into the season, and we'll get, obviously, answers as time goes on. Deshaun didn't look great, and that offense in general didn't look great. The O-line's great, or is very talented. The weapons are very good. The question is, can Deshaun put it together? Not to be Houston Deshaun, because that guy's passed. That guy's no longer, we're not going to see him again. But can we get a good Deshaun Watson? That's going to be the question, but I can't deny what I saw. That Browns defense is unbelievable. I am genuinely concerned for my Steelers on Monday Night Football. We'll see what happens, but I will begrudgingly put the Cleveland Browns at number 10. At number 9, dropping precipitously from where they were at last week. I had them as the 4th best team in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens, I've got them at 9th. Sorry, not sorry, really, to my man Devin Nettles, the host of the At the Bank Ravens podcast here on the grid. Love Devin. But your Ravens the best, or the 9th best team in the NFL, my man. So, they come into this game with Houston. Sure, you're going to have some offensive struggles from time to time. You know, Mark Andrews was out. It's not going to look perfect. But Lamar looks kind of shaky. Lamar didn't look terribly comfortable, and it's not going to get easier because the fact that, God bless him, knock on wood for him, J.K. Dobbins tore his Achilles, similar to Aaron Rodgers, obviously. He's done for the season, so they lost their starting running back one game in. And now Ronnie Stanley, their star offensive lineman, now he's hurt. So that's 2 major offensive pieces 1 weekend down for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they should get Mark Andrews back this week when they have a pivotal game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Big one. I can't wait to watch that in the 1 o'clock window. 2 AFC North rivals, obviously, my Steelers. But when I look at this Baltimore Ravens team, love their talent, still see them as a Super Bowl contender. I'm seeing some folks take them out of their top 10 entirely. I think that's way too soon. It's a very talented football team, but they're already suffering injuries, and you got to adjust to that. I mean, spoiler alert, the Jets aren't in my top 10 because I know of Aaron Rodgers. They obviously were in my top 10 last week. I've got to adjust with the times, obviously. That's why it's a week-to-week list. I still think the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender. I really do. But that wasn't that wasn't a great offensive performance against a rebuilding Houston Texans team, and they lost some major pieces. The Baltimore Ravens are at number 9. At number 8, I'll keep them in the top 10. I'm sorry, I'm not going to let one game dictate where I'm putting this team. The Cincinnati Bengals, I shouldn't say dictate where I'm putting them, dictate just me having them out of the top 10 entirely, which again, I've seen some lists taking the Bengals out. I think that's just simply looking at the standings, to be completely honest with you. Listen, the reason I actually thought about putting the Bengals at around 6, the reason I put them at 8, I don't know what's in the water in Cincinnati. Every offseason, they try and address the offensive line. Every offseason. They give guys big money. I mean, Orlando Brown, they gave him big money from the Kansas City Chiefs. And Orlando Brown was abused all afternoon in Cleveland. It was terrible. Joe Burrow's running for his life again. This is a concern I have for Burrow coming into the league. The Bengals, who have historically been a very cheap organization, finally seem to be going after guys, and they can't protect. Now, some of this might be Cleveland's offensive line. But I still have Cincinnati. I'm sorry, it's Cleveland's defensive line, rather. But I'll still put Cincinnati in the top 10 and at number 8 for the simple fact that, listen, the issues with Burrow and his receivers, and in the rare instances Burrow did have time, he obviously, you see by his completion percentage, wasn't terribly accurate. The timing was off. Listen, offense is a timing. It's like a dance. It's literally like it's a choreographed dance to a certain extent, where everybody's got to be in the exact right place at the exact right time. That obviously was not the case for the Bengals on Sunday, but that's something that can be fixed because Joe Burrow missed all of training camp with that calf injury. So the timing's going to be a little off. I don't care what your chemistry is. You still got to kind of build that back up. It's not like just getting on a bike and you pick up right where you left off. It's going to take time. Cincinnati will be fine in the long run. I still think they'll win the AFC North, but they dropped from where the Bengals were at number 3 last week. I've got them at number 8. At number 7, moving up a spot from last week's list, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia is at number 7. So, listen, Philadelphia didn't exactly blow anybody's socks off in beating New England. Matter of fact, they were quite unimpressive. But in their defense, and I said this would be a close game, I didn't take Patriots +4 for the record, but I said it'd be a close game for the fact that, listen, it's opening day. Bill Belichick is one of the greatest I think he's the greatest defensive coach ever. He's had, 5 months, or 4 months rather, to game plan for this Eagles offense that lost some pieces in the offseason, albeit they gained some pieces in DeAndre Swift. But defensively for Philadelphia, they're very weak in the middle of the field. By the way, I'll predict Philly's game against Minnesota later on today's show. Really thin at linebacker, lost both their starting safeties, and New England attacked that. That's why I think people overreacting to Mac is a real thing. And so, listen, Philadelphia's still talented. Jalen Hurts didn't have a particularly good afternoon, but it was wet, it was rainy, it was a Bill Belichick-led defense on basically Tom Brady Day, where he was honored in Foxborough. Philly will be fine. I think they'll still make the playoffs. I still have Dallas winning the NFC East, but Philly's a playoff team. I'm not going to go crazy after 1 week. By the way, in a game that they won. I mean, we can't just discount the fact they did, after all, win the football game and made the plays necessary defensively to do so. That Eagles offense will be fine. Listen, most offenses in the NFL didn't look all that great this week, most of them. So Philly, I don't have any concerns about them moving forward in regards to them, just moving out of Bryson's best 10. To number 6, this team didn't go anywhere because they did exactly what I thought they would do. The Jacksonville Jaguars are the 6th best team in the NFL. I've got Jacksonville at number 6 because I said they're a Super Bowl contender. I said they get to the AFC title game. The roster is good, not special. The difference is they have a special coach, a special quarterback, and they have a legit number 1 receiver in Calvin Ridley. They went on the road to Indianapolis. That's a division rival. I understand that. The game was a lot closer than I thought it would be. But the Colts are in rebuilding mode. The Jaguars did what they were supposed to do, so I'm not going to overreact too much. Trevor Lawrence made the throw in the red zone to Zay Jones. Props to Zay Jones for making a great play, but that was as beautiful a throw and catch as you saw all of last weekend in week 1. So Jacksonville's defense, I think, is getting better. Hopefully, as time goes on, the youth and experience won't be so much of an issue given the fact that they do have playoff experience. But Jacksonville's offense is going to be a huge problem for a lot of teams, particularly Kansas City this week on Sunday in Jacksonville, the home opener. That place will be electric. But Jacksonville did what I thought they would do. Took care of business, beat Indianapolis by double digits, and they don't move anywhere on my list. They're still at number 6. At number 5, first time in Bryce's best 10. Holy smokes, look at the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are in the top 5, the 5th best team in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa was, and this is a guy I've been very skeptical of in terms of he's not the talent. I think the film and your eyeballs tell you he's not the talent that Justin Herbert is. But something that I thought was impressive by Tua. Listen, I thought Tua had a good arm. He showed a freaking laser for an arm the other day in Los Angeles against the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, just making beautiful over-the-middle throws to Jalen Waddle, taking big shots down the field for Tyreek Hill. It looks like a left-handed Mahomes. Hell, don't strike me down yet, God. But look like the left-handed Mahomes taking shots down the field to Tyreek Hill, leading him in stride. Tyreek's not having to come back and fair catch it to a certain extent with Tua Tagovailoa, which you saw at times last season. That Dolphins offense looked in sync, looked connected. Again, in a week of bad offenses in the NFL in week 1, Miami's was not anywhere near that category. They looked great. They looked in sync, and Tua was special. Tyreek Hill, by the way, was on another planet. He's making as strong of a case as anybody to be the best receiver in the NFL and to overtake a guy I think is the best in Justin Jefferson, but Tyreek is certainly second. And listen, he said he wants to have 2,000 receiving yards this year. Listen, he's 10% of the way there. 10% of the way there with 16 games to go. If you add the math up, if he puts up this kind of production, he could have, darn near 4,000 yards. It's unbelievable what Tyreek Hill is doing. That Dolphins defense concerns me a little bit, but it's the first game with a new defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. That'll get corrected as time goes on. I think with the Jets now completely out of the divisional mix, I think Miami wins the division. I had them making the playoffs anyway, but now they certainly appear to be the favorites to win the AFC East. To number 4, a team that was 7th last week, and is now number 4 in the Final Four, so to speak, the Detroit Lions, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a word from Dan Campbell himself?
Kneecap.
Of it. Wonderful. How about those Lions? We have I don't know if it's the social media era. I don't know if that's it. But we have so short of attention spans, and we just forget that things happen so quickly. And you look at the fact that Detroit went on the road to Kansas City, to the Champ's house on banner night, and took care of business. Played excellent defensively. I know Mahomes had the drops. Drops happen. Drops happen all the time in the NFL. By the way, ask Daniel Jones last year. Daniel Jones dealt with a lot of drops. Giants still made the playoffs, okay? You could still win games with drops. Mahomes was shaky at times during that game. Some of that was the pressure by Detroit against a very good Kansas City offensive line. Detroit's offense wasn't special, but again, that's a solid Kansas City defense. They were aggressive on special teams. Goff led the drive at the end to give them the lead, and then the last drive of the game to ensure that the best quarterback on planet Earth didn't get the ball back. Detroit took care of business on the road in Kansas City. I've said all offseason I've been the Detroit Lions but defender in all of sports media, saying this team will get to within a win away from Super Bowl 58. I feel as confident about that as ever. Detroit's the real deal. They are who I thought they were. They are the 4th best team today in the NFL. At number 3, the 2nd best team in the NFC, it is the Dallas Cowboys, a team in Dallas. I had it number 5 last week. They move up a couple spots. Look, I didn't have the Giants making the playoffs, but I didn't have them as a bunch of scrubs either. Okay, that's a Brian Dable coach team. They still got Saquon. They still got Darren Waller. They didn't use Jalen Hyde enough for my liking, but that is what it is. And people are ripping Daniel Jones to shreds for the Giants. Yeah, he was pressured more than any quarterback in football over the weekend because this Dallas defense, the word I kept flashing across my brain as I'm watching the game, as I'm thinking about that game right now, they fly all over the field. They were fast. They were always fast. I don't know if it was just the 8 months of off season since that playoff loss to San Francisco. My Lord, maybe it was just relative to the team they were playing in New York, they don't have quite the athletes that Dallas does. But Micah Parsons flying all over the field, had a massive night. Stephon Gilmore looks like he's going to be the addition to this defense that I and a lot of people thought he was. Trayvon Diggs played solid. That Cowboys front 7, God bless Zach Wilson in the New York Jets this week because they're about to have some issues with them. This Cowboys front 7 is as good, I think, as any in football, with the exception of Pittsburgh and San Francisco. They are in the conversation potentially to be the best defensive football. I know a lot of folks are criticizing Dallas's offense, and Dak his numbers aren't going to blow you out of the water. Look, if your defense is getting not just getting takeaways, but getting touchdowns off of takeaways, why do you have to reveal your old offensive playbook in the rain in New York against a team that you are crushing? Again, it gives me Texas versus Rice vibes. Texas didn't look good offensively against Rice because they didn't open up their playbook. They were using a preseason playbook, so to speak. Sark opened up the playbook against Alabama. They looked awesome. Mike McCarthy, I don't think he'll even have to do it this week against the Jets. But in the future against the 49ers and whatnot, he'll open up the playbook. Dak will be better. By the way, they happen to play indoors. I think Dallas is going to get home field advantage in the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. Dallas's defense looked every bit what I thought it would and more. A 40-0 shutout over the Giants cannot be discounted. At number 2, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, down one spot where I had them last week at number 1. Listen, people are going to freak out, and again, I think this is still a shot at the Detroit Lions, the fact that people are taking Kansas City out as if it was just, Kansas City lost to the Washington Commanders or something. Not to take shots at Washington, but yeah, I'll take shots at Washington because Detroit's on a different level than Washington is, obviously. Okay? Drops plague them. Travis Kelce was out. Looks like he's going to be back this week. That was quite a swift recovery. See what I did there? And Chris Jones is going to be back this week and back for the rest of the season because he signed a 1-year deal. By the way, I don't think that contract, if you look at the numbers and given what he was fined, I don't think that contract is favorable to Chris Jones in the slightest. But Chris Jones is back. Travis Kelce is back. So they got the squad back together. It's still a great offensive line. And let's not overact. This is the first time Patrick Mahomes has lost in week 1 in his career. I didn't know Patrick Mahomes all of a sudden is just a mid-tier quarterback now. Okay, Patrick Mahomes is going to ball out. Whether they beat Jacksonville or not, Kansas City has had extra time to prepare. They'll be as dominant, I think, as any team in the NFL this week. Again, whether or not the Jags win or not, you shall see on Sunday, and in particular when I predict the game on Friday. But Kansas City at number 2, and that leaves number 1. So I swapped 1 and 2 this week. The San Francisco 49ers are the best team in the NFL as we sit here today, folks. San Francisco went on the road to Pittsburgh, to my Steelers house, and albeit it was a questionable at best game plan for Matt Canada, the Steelers OC, in terms of these long developing plays. But with that said, that is, TJ Watt was really the only bright spot for Pittsburgh with 3 sacks. Yet and still, San Francisco hung 30 on them. 30 on us, rather. Brock Purdy looked excellent, making big-time throws in and out of the pocket on 3rd down. Brandon Ayuk, Offensive Player of the Week in the NFC, deservedly so, had a couple touchdown receptions. Deebo Samuel was virtually irrelevant in this game. I barely saw number 19. And you still had Christian McCaffrey running for 100 yards, had the 65-yard touchdown. I mean, this is for the Steelers offense to do what they did against a Mike Tomlin-led Steelers defense. Mike Tomlin had 4 months to game plan for the San Francisco 49ers offense. Could not stop them, particularly in the first half, and San Francisco never looked back when they went up double digits. And as for San Francisco defensively, again, some of this is Pittsburgh's questionable offensive game plan. But I challenge you. Name the weakness in the Niners defense. Name it. They're awesome on the defensive line. They got easily the best linebacking core in football with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. And in the secondary, where they're not not going to blow your socks off, but that Ward kid is a ball hawk. It seems like he's always making plays all over the field. Hufanga had a pick. You guys know I have loved Hufanga since he stepped into the NFL. I think that kid's special. By the way, trained by Troy Polamalu, Steelers legend and Hall of Famer. You could see his imprint on the young man. San Francisco, I said last week it was the best roster in the NFL. That's why I'm at number 2. I just thought Kansas City had the better coach, better quarterback, and their roster's no slouch either, obviously. But including at quarterback, and I've been a Brock Purdy believer since he came in and replaced Jimmy Garoppolo. Sturdy Brock Purdy is legit. He's the real deal. You got to stop with this Mr. Irrelevant stuff. No. He's here to stay. He's a better than average starting quarterback in the NFL. And the San Francisco 49ers, as we sit here today on September 13th, 2023, are the best team in the National Football League. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.